My name is Keyanna. Welcome to Power Your Story Season 9, a podcast from Magical Matters and Creative Impostor Studios in Chicago. This season, our theme is experiences. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Power Your Story podcast. My name is Alejandro. Today, talking with Rudy Sosa, a community leader in the Blue Ridge neighborhood of Chicago. He also mentored you, the band, becoming a man. I met Rudy in my high school. I want to invite him to talk about our community and mentor you.
So BAM stands for Becoming a Man. BAM is a program that helps boys to take their steps to become men. It's kind of like a rite of passage. Like back in the day in our native culture, Indigenous culture, boys at 13 were ready to become men by doing a rite of passage, a trial. And sometimes that would be to go off in the wild and stay there for a week and survive on your own. Well, we're not doing that. What we do is we have group missions and practicing what we're learning and participation, field trips, learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable, learning about integrity, accountability, respect for womanhood, visionary goal setting, positive anger expression. I'm 48 years old and I'm trying to be a better man today than I was yesterday. I met Alex in his freshman year. It was during lunch period, I believe, where freshmen were being introduced to on-campus programs. And I had my table set up. He asked questions about the program. I gave him a little information. He signed up and he started coming in part of the group.
I dislike you as a community leader and you mentor. What do the world mean to you?
It's very important to me. I didn't ask to be a community leader. I did choose to be a youth mentor, though. I started my work doing with the ceasefire campaign, and I was working here in Little Village. So I realized the importance of the work. When I started interviewing people, I live in Little Village, so I know everybody. Obviously, there's going to be people that I don't know that are not friends, but for the most part, mostly everybody I know, we've known each other for years. The population I was targeting were individuals in the gangs, and so a lot of those individuals are friends of mine. So during the orientation interview of putting them on my caseload, the questions seemed just odd. Just the way communication just seemed odd. I was like, wait a minute, man. Why am I talking to them like this is our first interview, our first conversation, right? I should talk to them like I do all the time. I know them, right? With that feeling, right? That feel. So that professional relationship now was also transparent. That's what I wanted hey, I'm here to help, man. And not, hey man, what's up, bro? What's going on? And just like be like friends, right? No, I took a job. I needed to do that job. And same thing with other people that I didn't know. I took it seriously. Then I started doing prayer vigils in the neighborhood, which I did not know how important it was. I just did it out of not agreeing on the traditional way of a shooting response that ceasefire used to do, which would be marching and chanting. I felt that doing that was going to make it look and feel like us against them. And that wasn't my intention. My intention was for some kind of unity. And so I thought, well, let's do a prayer vigil, man. And invite the community, invite the friends of this person, invite the family of this person, And next thing you know, you got two populations. You have the community people. They're all community people, but you have let's say that you have the non-gang involved and you have the gang involved. And so then people are seeing each other, looking at each other and saying, hey, that's so-and-so's daughter or son. That's the neighbor's son and they're there to pray and mourn and grieve and cry with the youth, with the individuals in the gang. And then on the other side, the gang is looking at the rest of the people, the community, and saying, man, that's the neighbor from over there. That's the neighbor from over here. that's that little girl, that's the girl from over there, that's that kid from over there. And next thing you know, they're all praying, they're all grieving, they're all crying, they're all participating together in what I call medicine for the community. And it just became a big thing. People would call me, say, "Hey, Rudy, can you come by, man? So and so passed away. We're gonna get together and we want to do a prayer vigil, man." And all right, cool, I'll be right there. And they asked me to bring my shell and my sage for me to burn and smudge people. And that's the whole part of this thing in the community. It's like we all got to do our part, you know. And I'm only 48 years old, but to some I'm considered their elder, especially the young ones, the ones in their 20s and their teens. They're doing their part also in putting medicine and healing this neighborhood. I don't know if you're familiar, but in Little Village, we got 3 major gangs, 2 of them that are more popular than the other, just for lack of a better word. And it's for the next generation of outreach workers, of people in the community to step up and continue the work, right? So one of the things I've been doing for the last 14 years is a community event. I decided, you know what, at least if I can't create peace between the two opposing warring gangs, let me at least work on trying to make peace between the one gang from within, because it's not like it used to be back in the day where there wasn't this division because you're from that set, I'm from this set, you know, mine is better than yours. So what I started doing was on Thanksgiving Day, before I started doing this, on Thanksgiving Day, going back to my teens, we would play football. So now what I started doing was, let's continue that tradition of playing football, but I'll grill food, you know, we'll get some food and I'll grill out for people. And we were out there from 7 to 9 in the morning to like 5 in the evening, just grilling. Over 100 people. Sometimes they got close to 200. It's a success every year. The community looks forward to it. The community looks forward to donating, participating, helping in any way, especially in making sure that it's a fun time. Everyone gets to eat. Everyone gets to take food home. So these are things that I look at that I've done in the community. The reason why I do it is because it's the community that motivates me. It's the community that pushes me, to support the community, the love of the community. You know, a lot of these people in the community that are gang involved have supported me. And that was very surprising because I didn't join the gang, but I fought the gang several times, lots of, you know, a handful of times. But, you know, back in the day, you know, you'd fight someone and that's it, it's over, you know, we're on with life because we all live in the same neighborhood. What's the point in fighting and looking at each other like you want to kill each other, but you don't when you live in the same neighborhood, you know? And that's something I try to teach the young people, you know, y'all live in the same neighborhood, man. You're fighting each other, you know, just let it go, man. This is something that we were taught when we were colonized, to have this hate against each other. Things were different before colonization. The way of life of the indigenous people here was very different before it was colonized. We picked up some bad habits. So as an indigenous practice, mentoring came pretty easy once I knew where it was coming from. It was coming from our people, our community, our way of life. Put it this way, the warriors always taught the braves, always taught the young ones, you know, they taught them the ways of how to be men. And so I've mentored or been a mentor or been a figure, a positive role model many times over with all sorts of kids around the city, different neighborhoods. You know, I left a job in construction thinking I was going to make good money in construction. Never knew that I'd be doing this kind of work. It's more to me than how much I get paid. I'm not going to lie to you, getting paid good is good, you know, it's good money, but the reward of, you know, being someone for a kid that didn't have that person, you know, being that father figure. I never saw it that way, but it is what it is. You know, some of these kids see me as their dad or uncle. I tell them, call me uncle, because this is how we refer to each other in our indigenous way. Uncle, auntie, you know, the women. I call like Alex my little brother, and he calls me big brother. But keeping these traditions alive, because so much was lost after being colonized. A lot of books were burned. A lot of our history was burned. So, you know, they say history is written by the victor. Well, we still have some history out there. You know, we just got to get it out. You know, and it takes this word of mouth and the teachings to continue so that story, so that history is still alive, Part of mentoring to me is storytelling. So I'm pretty sure Alex remembers a lot of stories I shared with him about life, experiences, stories told to me that were generation by generation. When I was young, my father would say, learn from my mistakes. I listened more to my uncles because my uncles walked this life, risky behavior, violence, drugs. My dad never did, so I didn't connect with my dad. Although I see now that it was wrong of me, it was disrespectful because that was my dad. I should have just listened to him, period. But I did what I did, and it's made me the person I am today.
My name is Keyanna, and I am going to ask you this question about your leadership for the community. So, the community, like some people are saying, that is trying to make us look bad. But in what ways, like, what are the things that we can do to show them that it's not really a bad, or we're not a bad society, or for the people in our community, like bad shooting, gang banging, and all that type of stuff? Like, in what ways can we show them the good in our area?
Good question. Just be doing positive things, man. It doesn't have to be something grand. It doesn't have to be caught on TV. All it takes is a ripple effect, All it takes is for one good deed out of the blue, to someone you don't even know, and someone catches it, and that person's going to do a good deed then. Sometimes our friends want to do something good, but are afraid that they do, the rest of the bunch is going to laugh at them. You were lame. Right. You punk, you weak. Those are our friends.
Right. It's supposed to be your friends when they should be supporting you.
Exactly. But do it anyways, If you got to be the one to step out and do something good, something righteous, something that's going to make you feel good because you made someone else feel good, then do it. Who cares about them? Who cares about everyone else? Do something good. And I guarantee you someone from that group is going to follow in your steps.
Hello, my name is Clara. One of the topics you said is important to you is rite of passage, ceremonies, and understanding our Indigenous heritage. So I wanted to know if you could say more about what that means and why it is important to you.
It's very, very important to me because the way I see it, our ancestors died because they were different. Like I said earlier, a lot of that history has been taken away from us, has been erased, has been burnt, has been destroyed. Although there's a lot that's been saved, for the most part, our teachings go from word to mouth. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm sharing with you all what I've learned, what I've experienced, a little piece of me. So to keep these traditions, these stories, these ceremonies, these celebrations, this way of life alive is by continuing these teachings, by continuing this way of life so that our ancestors didn't die for nothing. It took around the time of 2006 when I was introduced to a sweat lodge ceremony. I enjoyed it. I'm not saying I loved it. I enjoyed it. And it didn't take till a year later for me to go to the next one. That's because everything happens for a reason. I was ready to go again. Not just ready, but I was ready to take this way of life, take on this way of life. And I started going to trips to South Dakota and getting to know my elder who inducted me into being one of the first 7 in the Tukala Society. It's a warrior society. We each have a feather, an actual eagle feather on the warrior staff. And my pledge was to not live a life of violence, was to leave the life of violence that I once lived. It's been a struggle, I'm trying not to go back to my ways because it's so easy, I know it's like a flick of the switch, but that's not what I want to do. Especially if I'm talking to young people about nonviolence. What's it going to look like when they see me committing acts of violence? I got shot twice. The last time was in 2007. And I had guys asking me if I could give them the green light so they can go exact revenge on my behalf. And I said, no, because first of all, those 3 individuals got caught. So there's no need for it. Second of all, if I say yes and something happens to you, I got to live with that for the rest of my life. And I'm not going to have that. I forgave the individuals that shot me before I thought I was going to die because I dreamt 2 nights before that happened and I died, that was medicine right there. And so I learned to forgive. If anything I learned about that night getting shot my second time around was that I learned to forgive. And it was easy. It was easy. And I can tell you that if I would run into those boys or those men, they were boys at the time it happened. If I were to run into those men, I would still feel the same. I would still feel that I forgive them, and I don't want animosity and I don't wish no ill will on them. So my work in this community is about leading by example, being the warrior that I am, that I'm supposed to be for my community, by fighting to keep my youth in school, fighting to get them out of jail, keep them out of jail, fighting to keep them employed, get them jobs, get them educated. So, we don't fight like we used to. We don't try to shed blood. We fight a different fight, but it's the same still. We're trying to stay alive by going to school, by staying away from risky behavior. Although that's hard, because sometimes I got to understand, hey, I did those things too, I wasn't in the game, but I was involved in risky behavior, And all I can do is just pray and support these young brothers that are doing this, that maybe they'll see the light before it's too late. And some of them will never be able to see it because it came too late. They were too late for it.
What are some examples of ways that we can connect with our own ancestors or indigenous culture, even though we can travel?
Well, you got the whole world at the palm of your hand right there with Google. Google indigenous cultures. Whatever culture you're, I don't know if you're Mexican, you want to learn about the Mexica culture, Chichimeca culture, the different cultures and the different tribes in Mexico, the different civilizations in Mexico, the most recent, wherever part you're from in Mexico. We were taught the Lakota way, because it was a lot closer to going to South Dakota than the Mexico. But we have our Mexican roots and we practice our Mexican traditions, but we follow very close to the teachings of the Lakota because my elder, Toshunka Kokipapi, whose original name is Young Man Whose Horses Fear Him, but the name got twisted by someone who couldn't interpret it correct. So his name, as known by everyone, is Young Man Afraid of His Horses. But he was the one to induct me in the Warrior Society. So look at some clubs if you want. I mean, I belong to a network called Youth Struggling for Survival. And we have an organization called Semillas y Raíces, Seeds and Roots. And we gather here in North Lawndale. We have a garden there. There's moments where we have teachings about culture, whether it's Mexica or Lakota. Maybe through Semillas y Raíces could be a doorway for you to learn a little bit more about your indigenous culture, your indigenous roots.
Rudy, you mentioned early on, you talked about bringing your sage and your shell to the prayer vigils. Can you say a little bit more? I don't know if every student in here knows what you mean by that, like what those items are and what they symbolize.
Sure. Sage is like incense, but it doesn't have a perfume to give it that smell because sage is just the one smell. So I would go to South Dakota and get a bundle. And so I would burn the sage, like pluck off some of the leaves, ball it up, and put it in my conch right here and burn it. And as it burns, the smoke releases. And as you're praying silently in your head, you focus your prayer into the smoke. And so I have also a collection of feathers, eagle feathers and red-tailed hawk feather and turkey feather. I use those to fan the smoke. And so I also explain the reason why I use an eagle feather when doing prayer, smudging, because the eagle, it's a bird of prey, right? But it's the only animal of flight that flies highest in the sky, closest to the Creator. And if you believe in your prayers, if you believe in your prayer that you're sending, then the energy of that eagle that I'm using to fan the smoke to the sky, that your prayer gets heard.
I wanted to know if there's any other type of things you use as well.
Yeah, with the sage, the first thing I put in the conch is copal. Copal is like a resin that you get from trees, and it smells very piney. It smells pretty cool. And the best thing about it, though, is it has a lot of antibodies. So it's good for you to breathe in. Here's some copal right here that looks like crystals, like little rocks. This right here is sweetgrass. So this thing was from the tip of where it's at to my middle of my chest. And I burned a lot of it while we were doing the march of the Black Lives Matter movement. I come from a line of social justice people. My uncle worked with a lot of people undocumented. I'm helping them get their papers fixed, doing outreach work. An uncle who was a brown beret, who stood shoulder to shoulder with some Black Panther brothers and sisters. Like I said, I never knew that I'd be doing something like this. I have a cousin and a sister, and we play the role of warriors, man.
Why do you think it's important for young people to find a mentor?
Well, going back to when I was young, I wish I had someone I can talk to, someone who would listen, not just tell me what I needed to do. And you know what? Sometimes we need to be told what to do, right? But as young people, we're always being told what to do. No one wants to listen. I've heard a lot of times that I'm too young to understand, and I didn't like that. I didn't like hearing that, because it just it showed me that people weren't listening to what I was going through. But I think young people need a mentor, because sometimes it's hard for parents to be a mentor. You have to have a really good relationship with your son and daughter to be able to be their mentor and for them to accept you as a mentor. Because I think one thing they're going to want to know or look at is, do you know exactly what I'm talking about? Did you gangbang when you were a kid, Pops? Did you gangbang when you were a kid, Mom? Did you go to jail? Did you do drugs? Did you shoot somebody? So sometimes our youth seek a mentor that they can relate with. Sometimes that mentor is not that good a mentor. And sometimes that mentor is going to be someone that's got scars, someone that has ghosts, someone that fought demons, someone that did time, that was arrested, someone that hurt people. But that mentor can also be that same person, but who changed their life around. I wasn't the baddest or the worst of the worst, but I wasn't no angel either. My horns were filed down short, but I do the best I can. That's why storytelling is important, because we didn't have TVs back then in those days. And storytelling was a way of communicating and sharing an idea, an experience with our young people. But it's also important that when I mentor a young person, that young person takes what they've learned and puts it to use. Otherwise, what's the point in trying to teach a young person or trying to mentor them, teach them better, show them better, if they're not even going to use it, right? And it's very important that they share that, meaning that they put what they learned to use into teachings for others also. Again, because this is the way it was. One day, Alex is going to be my age, and Alex will be mentoring some kids. One day, you all are going to be my age, and you're going to be mentoring some kids, whether it's on a professional tip or it's just outside in front of your house, at the park, or just having a conversation, but you're going to share some experiences. It's also your job to let that young person find out on their own. We'd love to do nothing but rescue our young people, but sometimes that rescue is more harmful than helpful. It becomes a dysfunctional rescue. And when you do a dysfunctional rescue, that means that the person that you've been helping is not going to learn, is not going to experience what it's like to fail, what it's like to get stuck, what it's like to get out of being stuck, what it's like to face consequences. I had to tell that to a good friend of mine who was mentoring a young man. The young man kept getting locked up, kept going to jail, and the judge would only release him in the custody of his mentor. And I asked him, does Shorty smile when you walk into the courtroom? He said, yeah, man, that big old smile. I was like, yeah, because he knows you're there to save him, man. So you got to stop saving him, bro. You got to let him deal with face the consequences, man. It sucks, but that's the way it is, man. How else is he going to learn? You're enabling him by continuing to rescue him, And sometimes our youth will be angry. They'll get mad and they'll want the worst to happen to us at the moment, but they'll come around. they'll come around and realize they were wrong. They'll realize that you were the only one that really cares because you stepped in, because you called them out, you know.
What do you learn about Black Lives Matter?
So what I learned about Black Lives Matter is that although all lives should matter, the fact that out of all the lives that should matter, Black lives are being targeted with pain and with hurt and with racial discrimination and with death. And so although all lives do matter, we got to focus right here also, man, because these people are being targeted. Black lives are being targeted. And as a warrior, as a Tokala, it is my duty and obligation to do what I can to help in the situation. As small as it is, separating myself from the masses that they want to do their thing, and I'm just going to stand right here on my own, doing what I had to do, stay in my square, be in the midst of chaos and mayhem, and continue doing what I got to do.
Is anything else you want to share, Rudy?
I want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me here. Just the other day, I got out of the hospital. I had a series of small strokes. While I was in the hospital, a friend of mine called me, and he was pretty much chewing me out because he said, "Man, you don't get it, bro. You know, we love you in this neighborhood. You know, you got a lot of work to do. Your work's not done. These kids need guidance." I never thought I'd be doing stuff like this. You know, I almost wouldn't be here. I was shot in 1991. I got a bullet stuck in my jaw. I was shot again in 2006. I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot of violence. I've been a perpetrator of violence. Sometimes we go on through lives without knowing what our purpose is. But I got a pretty good idea what my purpose is, and that's just to be a warrior for my community. And if it weren't for a little help from the Great Spirit, maybe I wouldn't be here talking to y'all. I wouldn't be here sharing with you all. And I think mentoring also on the flip side helps people like me who are mentors fight our PTSD, our demons, our problems. It helps us grow also.
Thank you again, Rudy.
It was my pleasure.
This has been Power Your Story. I, Alejandro, thank you for listening.
Power Your Story podcast is produced by Chicago high school students with production support from After School Matters and the Creative Impostor Studios. Our theme music is by Gennaro Jackson, aka DJ Sparks. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Power Your Story Podcast. Thank you for listening. Peace.